Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
You gotta get back from here. You know that. You gotta get back.
All right? Don't worry about me. You need to make calls right now. All right,
the 4-1 should have taken a couple of companies that they were leaving back to us that were stuck in the tunnel. So that's, they might be busy doing
Go against another one. Hours after the attack, many smaller explosions rumbled through downtown.
At Ground Zero, running in the streets is the only form of escape. But on those same streets, the chaos and vibrations couldn't be avoided.
Keep your eye on that building, it'll be coming down.
The building is about to blow up. Move it back.
Yeah, we're up to the elevator, the 24th floor. As soon as we get up there, the elevator get out. Got power. We lost power in the elevator. Thank God we kept one of the truck guys there, and he forced the door, and then we worked our way down the stairs. As we came down the stairs, we were just dragging people along with us, and then when we came outside, it just blew. The tower blew, and I found the mask on the floor as I was crawling.
Inside, there were hundreds of firefighters scrambling up and down staircases, desperate to save them. No one expected the towers to collapse.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
Interview with a Port Authority engineer who worked at World Trade Center and spoke to us about the strength and integrity of the skyscrapers. Then, suddenly, the second tower erupted right before our eyes.
Let's get right of the
Moments later, the frantic run up Church Street started all over again.
Originally coming out the window, and I was, at that time I was quite upset about it, that I thought we should get in there. But then the explosion on the South World Trade happened, and I said, this is something we have to do, we have to back out. We backed out over here, and even then, that's when I was caught again in the second explosion.
At 10:30, I tried to leave the building, but as soon as I got outside, I heard a second explosion, and another rumble, and more smoke, and more dust. I ran inside the buildings, the chandelier shook, and again, black smoke filled the air. Within another 5 minutes, we were covered again with more silt and more dust. And then a fire marshal came in and said we had to leave because if there was a third explosion, this building might not last. And all I could think of was just to get away from there, to get to safety. And as I kept walking to Canal Street, I could hear yet another explosion behind me. It was truly one of the most frightening moments I've ever lived through.
Not only the rubble of the two tall towers this morning that were blasted.
There's all these noises. I don't know what it is. No one can go in to get the people out. There's small explosions still going on. We just heard another explosion.
Go against another one. Hours after the attack, many smaller explosions rumbled through downtown.
Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
To be right now. You gotta get back something. You know that. You gotta get back.
All right. Don't worry about me. You need to make calls right now.
And we had some time to get some of the people out, but then there was those secondary explosions and then the subsequent collapses. So I don't know how many people were in there. I know there was a lot of firefighters, a lot of public safety personnel were in there.
Well, luckily the door opened, and the Secret Service policeman them was right on B4 level, the parking lot. I says, listen, my ankle is broke. They says, okay, lay down. And they put me to lay down, and one Secret Service got something and wrapped my leg. And the next guy brought his van, put me in the van, and was bringing me out to get an ambulance. But unfortunately, no ambulance was available. So he says, what we going to do? So as he says that, that's when the other plane hit the second tower.
Dr. Tony Daher. He and his partner, Dr. Lincoln Cleveland, are emergency room physicians from New York University Hospital downtown.
We saw all our casualties yesterday at our hospital stopped at about noon.
It got really strange and very spooky. Things just stopped coming in that had anything to do with the blast. And, you know, at the time I was thinking, you can read a couple things into that. Either people are buried and they're going to start bringing bodies out, or just everybody died.
Where are all the people who were in these buildings?
The buildings were built, the structural support of the building is the shell, is the skin of the building. I remember when they were built. I'm a New Yorker. The innovative architecture of it is that the outer shell is where the strength of it is, and I think what happened is the whole thing imploded. It was like a chute that went straight down.
What does that mean to the inside?
It means that the explosion has nowhere to go except down. I think another building collapses, there's toppling, pieces fall off, there's a diffusion of the energy, and in this collapse, the energy all went straight down. And I think that, tragically, anybody in that chute did not survive. I think it probably had the force of close to a nuclear blast.
These firemen from Brooklyn have been taking the mountain down piece by piece, and many of them share the pessimism of the doctors.
It's what? It's just huge rubble.
Do you see anything of the victims, of the people who were in the building?
Yeah, you've got 110 stories on top of everybody over there. It's just tough to say.
110 stories on top of everybody.
That's what the two buildings were.
We got a shot, you see the antenna that was on top of the tower. It's at ground level.
And yet there are no people to be seen.
They pulled out a couple of Port Authority cops alive.
Right, last night?
Last night, this morning. Suppose they were like on the 80th floor from what we heard. But that's it so far.
I was here when they extricated the police officer at 8 o'clock this morning, who was in very good shape, actually, amazingly enough. I think right now it's just going to be a very slow process of digging through rubble.
You know, doctor, it seems to me that it must be very frustrating to be a physician and to have really so few patients to treat here.
You know, I don't know the numbers yet, but I certainly hope that means that a lot of people made it out alive. And obviously it's horrific and incredible tragedy for those people who lost their lives.
What do you make of this?
Words fail. Words fail.
It must be frustrating as a nurse to have so many victims here.
Yeah.
And you can't get to them, and you can't help them.
Dr. Anthony Gagliardi says it's just scratching the surface.
Most of what we've seen have been, in fact, the rescue effort workers, and not necessarily the primary victims who were already in the building.
So we had the unenviable position of having too many doctors. There were too many doctors and not enough patients.
First few floors is kind of still intact. So I'm hoping that most people undergrade, there might be a lot of voids, but unfortunately most people that were above the first few floors, very little hope as far as I know.
Seeing the buildings come down, I was expecting an enormous number of casualties, and it is striking how few injured people there actually were.
What exactly have you been doing, Jerry?
Working through the rubble, assisting rescuers up at the first tower, and just removing rubble, concrete, steel, anything in the way. trying to look for people that are alive, any bodies.
Why don't you try and describe the scene there at Ground Zero where the World Trade Center was?
It's devastating there. It's just twisted metal. It just looked like there was a giant explosion. There's just concrete laying everywhere, twisted metal. Nothing's normal there. Everything is just blown apart.
And there have been some rescues, but you haven't found many bodies, have you?
That's correct.
Do you have any idea why?
No, not right now.
One of the New York authorities actually pulled out from underneath the rubble. We believe they were trapped in an air pocket, but nothing more this morning. And in fact, what is strange really is the lack of people in hospital, considering we've only got a few hundred, considering how many people were in those buildings.
But this morning's statistics threaten to overwhelm the flickering hopes of finding many alive amidst the tons of debris. New York Mayor Giuliani.
We now have a count of 94 bodies that have been recovered, 46 of which have been identified. We have the gruesome and horrible situation that in many cases we recover only parts of bodies, and we have 70 in that category.
I mean, a police officer that I was talking to, he was bagging and tagging fingers and hands, just taking fingerprints. Is this one person? Is this two people? I mean, is this three people? And I mean, the guy's like, these are our own, man. I mean, you know, what are we going to do?
The search for bodies and the search for clues.
The EPA did find spotty levels of asbestos. A sample on a police car turned out dangerous. Another sample a couple of blocks away, not dangerous. But most interesting, in the mix, they are looking, they think, at specks of steel that used to be beams and elevators, marble from the lobby floor and facings. So what were once the strongest architectural elements in the two towers were pulverized, large portions turned into clouds like this one. Still, there is this mystery. If some of the hardest materials were vaporized, how to account for the presence everywhere of paper? Fully intact letters, business forms, stationery. Paper is so fragile and combustible, and yet somehow, maybe because we have so much of it, it was everywhere.
For example, is significant that it will help keep these visions, these images in people's minds for the days to come. That also leads to a lot of the anxiety. The things that we would see initially are people having difficulty concentrating, difficulty sleeping, feeling sadder than usual. Those are the kind of things that we see initially. Most people will get better from that. But we do know from what's happened before in Oklahoma City, in other natural disasters outside and inside of this country, that the sooner people are able to talk about it, and especially the trained mental hygiene workers, the better their prognosis is and the less severe the symptomatology will be.
Is it normal, doctor, for people to experience some unrealistic fears right now, whether it be about planes or tall buildings or something like that?
Absolutely. It's very easy for the events to kind of mushroom out of proportion. We have people here that came that we were trying to get in an elevator to go upstairs to one of our other counseling centers, and most people refuse to get in an elevator. That's an example of a kind of a cross-pollination, if you will, of all these stressors. Everything is going to become stressful to a lot of people in New York City for the next few days until there's some more stability and a sense that normalcy is returning.
Just in dealing with the people that I've come in contact with, I notice a lot of people whose moods are fluctuating somewhat wildly.